Hi there, Father Mike Estep. Ha 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 ha. Time for the second session of Out of Exile. This week you're going to ask, why am I standing on a wall? And we're going to hear from a friend who's going to talk to us about anticipatory anxiety and how it can affect our re-involvement in church life. And we'll hear from one of our medical expert friends who will talk to us about the Delta variant and what's happening with that in our community. Thanks for joining us today.
What? Get down. I can't get down. I am doing a good work. Or at least that's what Nehemiah said. Last week we looked at Ezra and how he said that God was stirring in people's heart and calling them to rebuild the temple and to rebuild Jerusalem. Well, this week we're looking at his compatriot, Nehemiah. If you read Nehemiah, we discover, is a cupbearer for the king of Persia. Now you say a cupbearer, that's not very important, but actually it kind of means like the secret service. He was security for the king of Persia, and he heard that his hometown and that the homeland where his people were from, Jerusalem and Judea, had been utterly demolished, and he had it on his heart. His heart was stirred to go back and to rebuild. So he goes back and he gathers the people together and he says, look at this, what do you think? And they all agreed, this is not good. And he asks them, well, what should we do? They all say, we should rebuild this. It's our heritage. It's important for the generations who are going to come. And they began to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem so that everything inside could be protected from the enemies outside. They were rebuilding, and they began to encounter all kinds of challenges. Some of them say, this is taking too long. This is too much work. We have other things that we have to do. And Nehemiah kept them at the task. They even had some opposition to come. People came and they would steal the blocks from the walls that they had just built into the wall that day. Nehemiah would say, we're going to have some security, and we're going to have to continue rebuilding. This is too important to stop. One day, Nehemiah himself is up on the wall, and some neighbors who don't like that they're building the wall come and say to Nehemiah, get down from there and stop this. And he says, I can't come down. I can't stop. I'm doing a great work. They come back several times. Once they come back with a threat that they will attack the city. And Nehemiah responds, I can't come down. I'm doing a good work. Once they come back and they say, you know, Nehemiah, if the king of Persia heard that instead of just building a wall, you in fact are building an army and you want to be king, wouldn't that cause some problems for you? Threatening him with gossip. And again, Nehemiah says, I can't come down. I am doing a great work. Friends, Suncrest United Methodist Church is a great work. And we can't come down. If you have found yourself during this time of pandemic having stopped the work that will bless generations to come, let me invite you to get back on the wall and to begin helping us rebuild for this new time and these new ages that are in front of us. The work may get hard. We may find opposition and reasons to not work, but this is a good work. And God is stirring our hearts to rebuild for a new day. we can't come down. We're doing a good work.
Tell us what you do, who you are professionally.
Yeah. My name's Eric Small. I've been a member of Suncrest since I was permitted to be a member at Suncrest through my confirmation. I have been there for a long time. So many of you have known me at various points in my life, and those of you who don't, I look forward to meeting you at some point in the future. I'm a nurse by trade. That is my background. That is my calling, and that's what I have done in my professional life. I became a nurse in 2012 and have been working as a nurse since that time. I'm not going to run the math right now on that, but been in that role. Been here at Ruby in Morgantown, serving in that capacity. I've grown in my nursing career. I received a bachelor's education in nursing, have grown in my nursing career as a leader in nursing, and I now serve as the nurse manager of one of our units here at Ruby, working currently on my master's in nursing as well. We'll hopefully be finishing that up here in the next year.
You have not only been in on the floor nursing, but you have been a supervisor and a leader of nurses through the pandemic.
Yeah.
What has that been like?
It's been tough. And that word alone doesn't cover it, but that's the simplest word that I can share. My unit is a trauma unit. We primarily deal with folks who've been in accidents or falls and things like that. And we're largely spared the direct impact of caring for patients who have suffered with COVID. We did not see the amount of death that a lot of my colleagues experienced in the past year. And for some of us, that was a comfort that we weren't in that. And for others, we had survivor's guilt that we were not the ones in the thick of it. And I have seen both elements of that take its toll on our nursing staff over the past 18 months or so. As we have moved through the various phases and waves and adjustments and policy changes and all the things that we've done to protect ourselves as we try to care for our patients and protect our community, I've seen that toll grow. Even as we have moved out of this pandemic over the past 6 months or so, the burnout, the compassion fatigue is a term we sometimes use in nursing and in other compassionate professions, is very real. Frustrated and sometimes exacerbated by the dialogue and the conversations that we hear in our communities, as we felt we have sacrificed where we have needed to and done all we can and really given our bodies and minds and our care to people who've needed it, and do so with pride, to see decisions consistently made that affect that can worsen that, harm that, is very hard. And a lot of nurses have left. Some just the profession entirely, which is the worst case scenario. That's less folks there to care for folks who need it. Others just have left to find the greener pasture that they think exists, where there's less of the intensity, less of the death, less of the harm, less of the challenge that we see with our patients. So tough is a starting place to describe what we've been through.
Some of my conversations with some of our health professionals in the church, they receive thank you, but they're kind of tired of thank you. They would just like to see people get vaccinated and take the precautions that will lead us to greater health in our community.
Yeah, the hero signs are mostly down at this point. I don't think we still have the one up in the parking lot that was for so long, but and it's wonderful to wear that badge and feel that honor and receive that thanks and gratitude, and it doesn't even begin to express the thankfulness that we have for the gratitude we've received. But by some component, once you're a hero, your sacrifice is expected, and that's the tension that a lot of our nursing staff, a lot of our healthcare staff find themselves in. We would much rather be the person stepping up to the challenge than the person who, well, this is just who you are now and what you do. So we're going to continue to put these burdens on you because you're heroes. That's what you do. And it's true. We still take it. We still do it because we care. But it's not easy.
Speaking of frustrated, I saw Dr. Anthony Fauci as yesterday. He doesn't lose it, but he was close to losing it.
Right on the line.
Yeah. Yesterday. And part of the issue that he was talking about was the Delta variant and issues related to it. As I have listened, our vaccines are doing a tremendous job. What I'm hearing is that we expected a 5% or so breakthrough infection sort of situation.
Yeah.
In other words, we expected that 5% of us who came in contact with the coronavirus would get infected even though we had been vaccinated.
Right. And the percentages that are listed, it's important to remember sometimes is when they give those, it's not you won't get sick, it's serious illness. So even a family member of mine was vaccinated and became sick with COVID and felt like he had a sinus infection and barely any symptoms, a mild headache for most of a week, and was then perfectly fine following that, but did test positive. And so that would fall certainly within that 95, 98, depending on exactly which vaccine you opted for or were given it based on availability, would fall within that. So that is still considered a success, not part of that failure rate. So that's that avoidance of serious, significant illness.
In another segment of this session, counselor is going to be talking to us about anticipatory anxiety. And there's a lot of anxiety about the breakthrough infections. So what you are telling us is that there will be those who are vaccinated who will get infection. It's somewhere around 5% of those persons. Mm-hmm. But those persons who do get infected, even though they've been vaccinated, the likelihood is that their symptoms will be relatively mild. In other words, they may not need to be hospitalized.
Yes. Some level of reduction in symptoms. So if your response to COVID, because one of the most difficult things about this entire process has been the variance of, wrong word to use, we're not going to talk about variants in a second, but the variety of response that the human body has had to it. Because regardless of vaccine, we had folks who were mildly ill and folks who showed no symptoms and others who showed the ultimate symptom. This basically brings the vast majority of folks up to that level of the mild symptom being the maximum. It's a reduction of the amount of harm possible from the disease.
I'm vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Let's say I am exposed to the virus and become infected, and my symptoms are relatively mild. When I become infected because I'm vaccinated, my immune system with the help of the vaccine, begins attacking the virus, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Am I contagious during that time?
Maybe.
Okay.
And it's a difficult question to answer. And one of
Sure.
the things that has been hard to clear, you are much less likely to be contagious. Based on your body's immune response, it's going to start attacking that virus, breaking down those proteins that it is made of, and doing what your body does with that and clearing it out of its system. So the viral load that you carry is going to be far reduced because your immune response has been prepared and is activated by getting that vaccine, weeks, months, days ago, whenever it was that you received it. So because your load is reduced, if you would cough, sneeze, breathe in somebody's environment, the amount of molecules of that vaccine are going to be reduced, or of that virus are going to be reduced as well. So the likelihood is less, but it's not perfect. So you can absolutely still be a carrier for others, even if you are vaccinated. It is still possible.
That's helpful to me because I've kind of been debating, going back and forth. Do I continue to mask in public, church, and in the community? And it sounds like mask is always a pretty good decision in those contexts. It just adds another layer of protection for you and for those whom you are with.
Yeah. One of the things that I appreciate about masking is it eliminates the question. And for me, it is hard to express a lack of trust in my fellow human being, but I will admit I am fallible, and that exists in me sometimes. And it eliminates the question. I am saying to those in my vicinity, I am wearing this to protect you and protect myself. Now, how that message is received by different folks is going to be different based on where on the spectrum of understanding they lie, or their beliefs. But it also, for me, eliminates that feeling of shame. One of the things that I know that I'm vaccinated. I don't know if I've said that yet, but I'm vaccinated. And one of the things that is easy to do is to pat myself on the back for being vaccinated. I've done the right thing, and I do believe that that's the right thing. But I've done the right thing, and therefore I can feel better than others who have chosen not to do so. And with that comes shame from somebody who may have genuine questions or genuine concerns, or only heard negative information, or only heard negative, I shouldn't say, misinformation from somebody that they trust, and correct information, or what I feel is correct information, from a source that they don't trust. And so that's a decision that they're making earnestly and honestly, and I shouldn't judge them for that. I would be happy to listen to that person. I would be happy to have a conversation with them and hear what they've heard, and share my own understandings as I'm doing now through this process. And so even the masks for those who are unvaccinated, as some places have as their policy, a person who is unvaccinated may choose not to wear that mask to avoid the shame. And so I choose to wear my mask as again, a symbol that I am willing to protect somebody else, but also to say, hey, it's okay to wear your mask if that's a factor for you. Maybe that's a little silly, but I find that that's good practice for me, and I feel better about it.
Eric, you've responded to some questions that folks are curious about and needed more information about, and you've responded with wisdom and insight and honesty about the unknowns. But there's so much that is known right now and that can lead us, and I'm grateful for what you've shared with us today. Do you have anything else that we should hear or know?
Just this. If you are if you have that question, if you have that concern, and I've talked to, medical professionals who have had those questions, probably the same ones from the same sources of information. And I've had to talk to my staff members and share with them what I understand, which is that these vaccines are very, very, very much considered safe. There is always some level of doubt, and scientists are really good about making sure that they include that doubt because that's what scientists do. But they are safe. I got vaccinated. My first dose was just after Christmas. It was before the new year, and my second dose 21 days or however long it was supposed to be at the time after that. The Pfizer vaccine specifically is the one that I've used. I will probably be due for a booster at some time in the future. That seems like that's on the horizon. I will get that freely. I felt mildly under the weather for a few hours the next day, and the peace of mind that has brought me through this pandemic, and the peace of mind for my family has been well worth even the risks before I was more sure than I am now. And I've been able to share that with folks who have had that concern, that question: does this change my genetic code? It does not. They will protect you. They will protect those you encounter who you care about, those who you encounter who are strangers, as we're called to do. It will be protective to the stranger as well as to your loved ones. And it will protect a fragile health system that has struggled under the weight of the pandemic for the last year and continues to limp along and work very hard to care for all those who need it. So if you have that question, get the vaccine. If you know somebody who has that question, share with them your experiences, share with them some of what I've shared if that's useful, the information, but listen to their concerns, hear them, and know that it's not coming from a bad place. I'd be more than happy to speak to anybody who would have it, but it's the best thing you can do for yourself, for your community. Get the vaccine.
Could you tell me what anticipatory anxiety is?
Anticipatory anxiety is thinking about beforehand the what ifs. What if I'm having a bad day? I've woken up on a Sunday morning and it's a horrible day for me. The thinking is that I'm just going to be uncomfortable throughout the entire time while I'm at church. So it's okay. It's okay to be kind of uncomfortable at church. That's the worst thing that could happen, actually. Sometimes allowing us to visualize the worst that could happen and what we can do to get through it is helpful for the morning before we go to church. So anticipatory, we tend to negate ourselves. As I've understood, we tend to put ourselves down when we think we're going to have a bad experience somewhere. And so consequently, we stay away from that particular experience. What if we wake up on Sunday morning and decide that we can't go to church? Well, it's okay. It's okay to back out. No one is pressuring you to be at church. No one is doing that. But the important thing is to practice being okay with that decision.
So anticipatory anxiety, given what we have been through, it would be normal for folks to have reservations or feel intimidated or afraid about being in church or in other public settings.
Fear is a good word.
Afraid, okay. And that's a normal feeling given what we
That's a normal feeling, absolutely. But the thing is, it's what you do with that fear. It's
Okay.
what you do with it, how you handle that, how you internalize that for yourself.
I'll be frank here. As a pastor who has worked through the pandemic and had to be with people, who's tried to take some precautions, of course, there have been times when I've been very concerned about situations that I've been placed in, particularly funerals and things like that. And you're saying that I should not have felt guilty about that fear or that concern.
Correct. You should not have felt guilty.
It's normal. Okay.
It's a very normal feeling, absolutely. I understand what you're thinking and what you're saying.
Mhm.
I remember doing a funeral during the COVID time as well, and that fear did come up inside of me. But I knew that I was going to be okay. I knew the situation. I knew the folks that I was doing the funeral for. So I know that they were protecting themselves as well.
So you mentioned the word practice, that practice can help us to deal with anticipatory anxieties. Um, Tell me more about that.
Just sitting and thinking about strategies, or not strategies, but images in your mind of coping well. Something in the past that you've experienced where you have coped really well with a situation. Um, that could have been, moving forward with a decision that you wanted to make, and knowing that you can do that, knowing that you can cope well with whatever comes before you. Um, Again, it's all mind. It's all in that cognitive part of our head where we have to really reflect about what we're thinking and then put it into doing.
Let's say someone is vaccinated. Let's say that they believe that our congregation is doing everything that we can to keep things safe, and they want to be present in a church gathering, whether it's outside or whether it's inside, but they're struggling with the anxieties. They're thinking through it. Are there some practical things that they can do, um, other than dealing with the thoughts? Can they do some things with their body that
Mhm.
may help them practice for being present with other people?
Mhm. One of the things, actually, there's two things that I was thinking of as you're asking that question. One is if it's the worship service, and you've geared yourself up in the car and you're walking into the church building for worship service. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission, and that's a key word there. To sit at the back, at the end of the pew, close to a door, um, things like that. If you're thinking during the week, I'm not sure if I can do this on Sunday morning. My prayer is that I hope that your church is open during the week. So a person like myself could come in, walk around the sanctuary, touch the pews, go to the altar, pray, go back to a pew, sit down, maybe pray Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It's a great prayer for strength. But actually doing something like that, coming into the church beforehand and walking around and being, what's the word I'm trying to, not re-comfortable, but just having that moment of comfort with the church again, the facility again. Um, but if you're there at the church and having a panic attack, allowing yourself to leave, sit at the back of the church, go to the lobby, the narthex, go out to your parking lot.
If someone came during the week and practiced, or even if they came on Sunday and felt that they couldn't handle it, do you think that the senior pastor of Suncrest United Methodist Church would be so nice and realize what's happening that he would extend grace to that person? Do you think that, Janet?
I think that the senior pastor would extend grace, definitely.
Okay. I think the associate pastor would as well.
Probably so.
Yeah.
You know, you know, it's nothing. I know sometimes we're so embarrassed if we do have an an anxiety attack or have an anxiety disorder. We're embarrassed to go out because I don't want to be seen, having a panic attack in church. Some people may not notice you're having a panic attack, and it's okay to get up from the pew and leave. It's okay. It is okay to do that. Give yourself a way out so you don't feel trapped.
Would you have anything else for us in regard to anticipatory anxiety?
One of the things that I kind of alluded to earlier is being aware that we are our own worst critic. We have those cognitive distortions in our head, those negative words, those shoulds and those musts. I should go to church. I must do this. It can help if we can try to be less self-critical, just kind of by being gentle with yourself, accepting some limitations, but also knowing your strengths. We all have wonderful strengths, but we tend to forget about those. We tend to put those aside because those cognitive distortions seem to gather more momentum sometimes in our daily our inner dialogue. That inner dialogue needs to be permissive and accepting of yourself. I think finally I would have to say, do not see walking out of church or not attending as a failure, because to me that equals kind of depreciating self-worth. And so give yourself the freedom and permission to go to church. Consider that a wonderful strength for the day, and applaud yourself at the end for doing that.
Right.
Because that's what we tend not to do.
Recommend getting some ice cream.
Getting some ice cream, that's good. I like that idea. Having a nice cookie is good.
I appreciate you sharing all of this. I'm drawn to the prayer from Psalm 23 that you gave us. The Lord is my shepherd. This is a process that we're going through, and all of us are going through it in different ways. But we can believe and claim that the Lord is our shepherd in the midst of all of this, and is guiding us, is not leaving us, but is faithful to us, loves us, and there's nothing we can do to change God's love for us. And we're going to get through it, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for the second episode of Out of Exile. I hoped you learned some good and some encouraging things. And this week, would you pray with me about the good work that Suncrest United Methodist Church is being called by God to accomplish in the days that we're living in and for the sake of the days that are to come? Thank you.